day 12 of retention. He's exhausted from fighting the same battle every night. The urge hits around 10 p.m. like clockwork. Chest tightens, breathing shallows. Old justifications flood in. Just this once won't derail everything. By 10:15, he's reset to zero, staring at the ceiling wondering why discipline crumbles so predictably. Most men think it's about willpower. It's not. It's about 3 invisible traps the brain sets automatically, and most never see them coming. Most men who attempt semen retention don't fail because of weak character. They fail because they're fighting invisible patterns their brain already knows by heart. Here's what happens. 3 core failure mechanisms derail even motivated practitioners. The first trap is neurochemical withdrawal. Years of regular release condition the brain to expect consistent hits of feel-good chemicals. When a man stops, the brain doesn't just accept the change. It fights back. Those feel-good pathways that used to fire predictably now misfire, creating mood swings, irritability, and intense cravings. Here's the thing. This isn't psychological weakness. It's the brain's reward system recalibrating. Most men underestimate this phase entirely. They expect willpower to overcome biology, and when the cravings spike on day 5 or day 12, they interpret it as personal failure rather than a predictable adaptation period. The second failure point comes from environmental cue blindness. Habits don't live in the mind alone. They're wired to specific contexts. A particular time of night, a specific app on the phone, the routine of being alone in a certain room. These environmental triggers automatically activate old patterns without conscious thought. A man can have strong intentions in the morning, but when evening arrives and he's in the exact setting where old behaviors happened hundreds of times, the brain pathways light up on autopilot. The context itself becomes the trigger, bypassing rational decision-making entirely. The third pattern is the rationalization loop. When cravings hit, the thinking brain doesn't stay neutral. It starts building cases. Just once won't hurt. I've made it this far. I've proven I can do it. This is unhealthy suppression anyway. Here's what we see. These aren't random thoughts. They're predictable mental distortions that occur during withdrawal phases. The mind generates justifications that feel logical in the moment, but serve one function: resolving the discomfort of craving. Here's how these patterns combine in real time. A man reaches day 9. He's tired from a stressful work week. At 10 p.m., he opens his laptop in bed, the exact environment where old habits lived. A notification pops up. An image, not explicit, but suggestive. His heart rate increases. The reward system anticipates its fix. Within seconds, the rationalization engine starts. I'm just going to look for a minute. I need to relax after this week. This streak was arbitrary anyway. The cue triggered the craving. The craving activated the justification. 15 minutes later, he's back at 0, wondering what happened to his resolve. Notice what drives these failures. It's not a lack of motivation. It's a lack of understanding about how deeply habit pathways run. Most men enter retention thinking it's a test of willpower. They don't anticipate the neurochemical adaptation curve. They don't audit their environments for triggers. They don't recognize rationalization patterns when they emerge. Here's a simple self-assessment. Think about past attempts. Did failure happen at random times or during specific situations? Late night, after stress, in particular locations? The patterns reveal which mechanism dominated. Mood crashes point to neurochemical withdrawal. Situational relapses point to environmental cues. Sudden, logical decisions point to rationalization. Now that these hidden traps are visible, the next step becomes clear. Understanding the failure patterns is half the solution. The other half is building specific defenses against each one, and that's exactly what comes next. Traps identified, patterns exposed. Now deploy targeted fixes that address root causes and prevent relapses before they start. Remember those 3 failure patterns: neurochemical withdrawal, environmental cues, and rationalization loops. Each one has a specific countermeasure. Here's how to build defenses that actually work. For neurochemical withdrawal, the solution isn't white-knuckling through cravings. It's riding the adaptation curve with support structures. The brain needs about 21 to 66 days to rewire pathways, but the intensity drops significantly after the first 2 weeks. The key is managing those early spikes without interpreting them as failure signals. Cold exposure works here, a 30-second cold shower when cravings hit. The shock disrupts the craving loop. The body releases different chemicals, adrenaline instead of anticipation. The urge doesn't disappear, but its grip loosens. Physical exercise does something similar. A hard set of push-ups or a sprint redirects the neurochemical energy. Experience shows this substitution technique reduces relapse by 40% when practiced consistently. For environmental triggers, the approach is surgical: audit and redesign. A man tracks every relapse moment for 1 week: time of day, location, emotional state, device used. Patterns emerge fast. Most relapses cluster around 3 to 4 specific contexts. Once visible, he changes the variables. If late night in bed with phone is the trigger, the phone doesn't enter the bedroom anymore. It charges in another room. If stress after work is the pattern, he builds a new routine: gym session or walk before going home. Environmental restructuring doubles abstinence rates compared to willpower alone. The brain pathways expect certain outcomes in certain places. Change the place, interrupt the pathway. Day 11. He's alone at night. Stress from an argument earlier sits heavy. The old pattern would have him scrolling, searching, justifying. Instead, he catches the first signal: restlessness in his chest. He stands, walks to the kitchen, fills a glass with ice water, drinks it slowly, opens his journal, writes 3 sentences about the argument, the feeling, the urge. 7 minutes pass. The intensity drops from an 8 to a 4. He texts his accountability partner: hit a rough moment. Using the protocol, I'm good. The response comes in seconds: proud of you, that's the difference. He puts the phone down. The moment passes. The pathway weakens slightly. Next time will be easier. For rationalization loops, awareness becomes the defense. Here's what works: naming the pattern disrupts its power. A man learns his top 3 justifications. Just this once won't hurt. I deserve a break. This is unnatural anyway. When those thoughts surface, he doesn't argue with them. He recognizes them as predictable scripts his brain runs during withdrawal. He says out loud, "That's rationalization pattern number 2." The simple act of labeling it creates distance. It's no longer a logical conclusion. It's a known mental distortion. Mindfulness training reduces relapse by 30% using this exact mechanism. Accountability systems add another layer. Men with at least one accountability partner maintain abstinence at twice the rate of solo practitioners. This isn't about confession or shame. It's about externalizing the commitment. When the rationalization starts, the thought of explaining a relapse to someone else adds friction. That friction buys seconds. Those seconds allow the thinking brain to re-engage. 6 months in, he sits in a coffee shop working. Across the room, he notices an attractive woman. The old automatic response would have been prolonged staring, fantasy building, eventual private behavior later. Now, something different happens. He notices the impulse, acknowledges it as normal biology, chooses to redirect attention back to his work. No shame, no suppression, just intentional redirection. The energy that used to scatter into fantasy stays contained. He finishes the project 2 hours ahead of schedule, drives home. His partner notices something different in his presence, more focused, more there. The benefits compound in ways he didn't predict. Success metrics matter. Track 3 things: streak length, urge intensity over time, and quality of daily energy. Most men see urge intensity drop 60% after week 3. Energy stabilizes around week 6. These aren't abstract benefits, they're measurable patterns. The framework is simple. Manage withdrawal with physical interrupts. Redesign environments to break cue behavior links. Label rationalizations to disrupt their power. And use accountability for external support. No single tactic guarantees success, but this combination addresses each failure mechanism systematically. Start with one. Build from there. The difference between men who succeed and those who don't isn't willpower, it's strategy. 3 traps derail most attempts. Brain chemistry battles, old settings triggering slips, justifications creeping in. 3 defenses stop them: physical disrupts, environment redesign, pattern recognition. This week, audit your danger zones. For 3 days, note every moment temptation spikes. Write down time, place, mood, what triggered it. Patterns emerge fast. Then pick your weakest link and change one variable. Phone out of bedroom. New evening routine. Accountability text ready. Drop your biggest retention challenge in the comments. Hit like if these strategies shifted your perspective. Subscribe for weekly tactics that address real obstacles. Your progress compounds when you outsmart the pattern, not outmuscle it.